It's RX Radio Breakfast, and for the big interview we have Terence, mentor, blogger, vlogger and podcaster, who's also known as Afrodaddy. He's the father of two boys and uses the Afrodaddy platform to talk about parenting and fatherhood. Covering both the good and the bad sides, Terence gives honest insight into raising children, and his wife and two boys are often featured in his content. Terence, thank you so much for joining me this morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on this morning. It's a beautiful Saturday for it.
Just to start off, why did you start your blog site and where did you come up with the name Afrodaddy?
I'd been a dad for about a year, and I'd spent the year looking around for content online for fathers, like just stuff that talks to fatherhood and gives a bit of relational experience content about dads, and it just wasn't anything out there. So I decided to make it myself. So I started with a YouTube channel of just me talking to camera about my experiences of fatherhood. And then that expanded into a website and a blog and a podcast and a vlog and all the stuff I do now 5 years later. And the name Afrodaddy, well, I had grown an afro and I was a dad. So that was the kind of obvious solution to it.
And so you've got two boys at the moment. Could you tell us a bit more about that and how they helped inspire this whole journey?
Sure, they are wonderful little guys. They keep me busy and they keep me on my toes. And I just realized that fatherhood is so important to these little people's lives. My role in their life is like a fundamental role that needs to be filled. And I looked around and I was like, wow, this is such an important thing that's going on in people's lives that we just aren't talking about. So it was really inspired by the fact that this is about them. This is about what I can do to be better for them, and what I can do to help them become the people that they need to be one day. So it's really it's kind of all inspired by them and it's for them, even though I talk about myself a lot.
And why do you think that fatherhood is so important?
Well, I mean, if you just look at the statistics, if you look at kids who have a man in their life who plays the role of a father, and it doesn't have to be your genetic father, it can be a uncle, it can be a close family friend, it can be a neighbor, but someone who really plays that role well in their lives, those kids are less likely to become addicted to drugs, less likely to fall into a life of crime, they're less likely to have an early pregnancy, they're more likely to be successful, they're more likely to get a good education, they're more likely to be a good functioning member of society. So just statistically and for society alone, fathers are important. But also we all know what role like your father's played in your life, right? Good or bad. If you've had a good father, you know how inspirational that's been and how supportive and amazing it's been. And unfortunately, a lot of people have had bad father experiences, and we know how devastating that has been as well. So dads play this very critical role, and that was so strange because this is this big role that we're playing, and we're not talking about it, and we're not teaching each other how to be better.
And then I know you sometimes have your boys featured in the podcast. How does that work out?
Well, the podcast kind of started because I was working in radio, in the radio industry for 10 years, and I love radio. Like that's my favorite kind of medium. But I had to leave the industry. I got a new job at somewhere else. So I was like, okay, how can I still feed that passion of mine? So I collected some cheap equipment that I could find secondhand and little bits and bobs. And I thought, okay, well, let me just sit down with my wife and talk to her about, because my wife is very smart. So she's definitely someone we're talking to. And let's talk about parenting and fatherhood and all the things that feed into it. And as that's expanded, I realized, wait a second, I could be talking to other dads. This is like a great opportunity to not just have Terence's voice about fatherhood, but like bring other dads in as well and get their experiences of fatherhood and what they're thinking, which is very exciting for me.
Well, Terence, thank you so much for joining me and sharing some light on this morning. Definitely going to be checking out your site. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. And if anyone wants to check out your site too, where can they find it?
Very simple, afrodaddyonline.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You are listening to RX Radio.
For and by children.
RX Radio. RX Radio rocks.